Hey everybody, welcome to, I can't put my brew down. Welcome to A Brit of Alright with me, Alex Boardman.
And me, Chris Keogh.
So, what we're doing, we're just coming up with things that are alright about Britain.
Yeah.
We've got a big list, which has got, how many items is that? It's got 17 things on.
17 things on it now.
So far, so please go back and watch. If this is your first episode, go back. It's not any better than this. This is a typically how shoddy and poorly produced it is. But go back and see what we think is all right about Britain.
Yeah.
So I told you what I was going to do this week, and
You did.
You have done yours on the back of mine to link it, which you've started to do.
Yeah.
Which at first I thought, oh, that's really clever and really good, and now I realise it's actually just laziness, isn't it? And
basically, yeah.
a real lack of effort. So I have to do all the original thinking.
Yeah, and
then you just
capitalise on
piggyback on the back of that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Should I go first with that in mind?
I think you should.
Right. Hopefully you can see these, everybody, and it's a really controversial one this week.
All right.
So this, what would you call this?
See, this is the thing, is that I don't know how, I don't have an actual pronunciation of it. It's like, probably Scone, I think.
Wrong.
But I don't know.
I think. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard person. So I will call these scones.
I think it's changed what
I think in the north of England, most people call these scones, but maybe not.
Really?
I think so. I don't know what they call them in Newcastle, say. But I know in Lancashire, most people call it a scone.
So maybe I would say Scone then. This is the thing, is I don't have...
Well, we're in Bolton now.
definitive...
If you knocked on 50 doors, most people would be at work. But... so it'd be fruitless.
In this
but
economy.
Say you asked 50 people and went, what's this? They'd say a scone. So this one is a sultana scone. It's got little sultanas in, which is my favourite. My favourite way to have it is with butter, especially with thick butter that you can leave a tooth mark in.
Oh, yeah.
Which I love doing. But this is, I don't know what butter this is, but is this margarine?
Yeah, pretty hard butter. Unfortunately.
You need to get butter because it's not as nice as it should be, but it's still really nice. So, history of the scone. So I thought I could solve this once and for all, this debate whether it's scone or scone.
All right.
So the first recorded, it's written down in a poem in Scotland, and scones were a Scottish dish.
Right. Okay.
So they originate in Scotland, but not in this form. They originate. It means a circular, griddled foodstuff, and it's made with oats in Scotland.
What's because there's such a thing as a tatty scone.
A tatty scone, that goes on a breakfast.
Yeah.
And that tatty meaning potato, that's different. And I think it's to do with the shape originally. So I thought what I could do, being an absolute clever dick, was if I get a Gaelic dictionary and put firstly what's Gaelic
Learn
for
Gaelic,
scone,
okay,
and then so we're on Gaelic. Learn Gaelic, the dictionary, and this is how it would be pronounced. This is the new way of pronouncing it. So,
Skine.
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 That sounds quite Scandinavian.
It does, doesn't it?
Scone.
Scone. That
So
sounds
does
even
that.
more so. Yeah.
So interestingly, when
It does because it's got skirt. It does have that sort of...
So the first pronunciation that I played then, that was the modern version of scone, and the other one was the original Gaelic of scone.
Oh right, so Gaelic's evolved.
Scone. Yeah. Now, interestingly and typically diverting, when I went to Shetland Islands about 15 years ago, they can speak the accent of old Scots is still there on Shetland, and in some of like the Hebrides, and they can converse with Norwegian people.
It does sound, when you hear sort of people from like Orkney or whatever, they go, you got the same sort of like rhythm.
We sat in a pub, and Jason Entertainment Cook was with me.
Okay.
So it's not me just making this up. And obviously Norwegians, nearly everyone in like Scandinavia can speak English really, really well.
Yeah.
But they were speaking in Norwegian and they were having a conversation with Scottish people who were speaking Scots, and you could understand the Scottish people, and then you could understand after a couple of pints, especially the Norwegians who were speaking in Norwegian. So, for instance, the word "ben," which Geordies use,
child,
meaning little thing, that's a Norwegian word or Scots word. It's just a shared word.
Okay.
So interestingly, how that sounds like Scandinavian, doesn't
yeah.
it? So that's no help as to whether it's scone or scone.
No. Well, I was once ordering whatever they're called
Scones
in a cafe in Preston, right?
Yeah.
But it was a South American cafe because of course it was. It was
yeah, of course.
And they had these Argentinian scones or scones, right? And I was like just queuing up, ordering a coffee, and I think, oh, which of these pastries should I have? And I thought that was interesting. So that, and I started saying it. Can I have one of those? And as I was approaching the word scone, I thought, I don't know how I pronounce this. Like, you know, and I wasn't confident that I would get it right.
Ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
And so I sort of fudged it, and sort of said, "Can I have one of those scones?"
Which is the correct pronunciation. So you actually got it right. So from 1513, that a Scottish poet, and I can't remember the name of him. It wasn't the one Scottish poet that I can't remember the name of.
It wasn't Robbie Burns.
No. Mentioned these griddled like skilders, and when the production of flour became basically they had better ways of refining flour, and they started to add things to it, like for instance self-raising flour with like a built-in version of a rising agent. It's the middle of the 1800s. This becomes really, really popular in polite society, and the cream tea arises.
I always think of it as being quite
upper
sort
class,
of middle class or upper class even.
Yeah.
You know, like all traditional, you know, sort of like that cream tea. Triangular sandwiches. I used to think triangular sandwiches were for sort of like posh people, rather than just like folded up bread.
So popularised by the Duchess of Bedford.
Okay.
So it was a newish thing then, and she started having these cream teas and afternoon teas.
The aristocracy was sort of like influencers back then, weren't they? You
know,
well,
they kind of
do
still
it,
are,
therefore it sort of, that's an endorsement that this is a good thing rather than other people do it.
So people copy it firstly because of class and because it'll make them seem more upper class, but secondly because they're the people that can pioneer stuff and try new stuff are people that can afford waste.
Yeah,
so if you're in
time on their hands as
if
well.
you're in 1840 and you work in like a mill or a pit, you can't go, oh, should we bake something and see if it comes out right? It's like, no, just make some bread because I need to eat to work. Whereas, you know, if you've got a chef who can spend all day coming up with like versions of old Scots recipes.
I never thought of it in those terms.
Yeah.
Actually.
So the Duchess,
you can't afford to experiment in the kitchen when like you have to count every penny, can you?
You can't. No, you absolutely cannot. Although on the other side of that, that
necessity being the mother of invention might mean that some people
and the whole cucina pavora thing, however it's said in Italy, where it's the poor person's kitchen. All those foods seem to always become like everyone's national dish. Is always
it's always peasant food, isn't it?
Always peasant food, So the other area of controversy with scones or scones.
How you pronounce it, Albert?
I know for a fact that the Queen, well, I don't say
controversy.
Was the warm-up acts for Paul Hollywood. When
the Queen was the one. Oh, you were.
I was. For two, he did two big tours up and down the country. That's my claim to fame. And he used to say, because he bakes scones as one of his recipes, he calls them scones.
Okay.
Because, and I think people in Merseyside would say scone, but he said scones because he was with Mary Berry and they were serving them to the Queen.
Of course they were.
And the Queen called them scones. So Paul Hollywood said, I call them scones because if it's good enough for the Queen, it's good enough for me. And as we toured British cities,
I mean, that opens the door for lots of things.
That was like people loved that in Oxford.
Paying off people that accuse your son of sexual misdemeanour and all of that.
Yeah, I say pedo.
I call it a breeb.
Yeah, £12 million bribe funded by the taxpayer, possibly. We don't know, do we, where that income came from. So that played well. Scone played very well in the south of England.
All right, okay.
Any mention of the Queen did not play well in Glasgow or Aberdeen, for instance.
Surprising.
And in Sheffield, somebody heckled and went, "We don't care, we call it Scone."
Right, okay, yeah.
So, and the audience clapped this one.
Because like Yorkshire folk can't like that, though, aren't they? They'd be like, "This is our
although there's a
own
huge
thing."
royalist sort of,
Yeah,
like,
I guess there is, isn't there?
yeah, in some of those little market towns.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're digressing. Back to scones. So cream teas, famously in Britain, there are two main people who cream teas are a huge business, and they are people from Devon and Cornwall.
Okay.
And
so the southwest of the country.
Southwest of the country. And the Cornish still being heavily linked to like original Celtic people and have words still that are Celt words and speaking a dialect that can be understood in the south of Ireland.
There's a really good, one of my favourite musicians is someone called Gweno.
I thought you were going to say Pam Ayres.
And she sings, I used to think she sang in Welsh, but she sings in Cornish.
Yeah. So the Devon people put the jam on top. They put cream on first.
Right, okay.
And the Cornish people reverse jam. Right. So they have scone, jam. In Cornwall, they have scone, jam, cream.
Yeah. And
no, is that right? I've got it wrong. Have I got it? I had it and then I've forgotten it. So Devon people put scone, jam, cream.
Do they?
And
is that what you said before?
I don't know. I'm going to have to Google it now.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't believe that.
This is the sort of thing you need to get right, isn't it? You don't want to be getting dozens of angry emails from people from Devon.
Well, if I was to do a joke about people emailing from Devon and Cornwall. Right, a Devonshire cream tea is traditional English afternoon snack consisting of freshly baked scones, clotted cream, strawberry jam and tea. The Devonshire method, split scone topped with cream first, jam on top.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Now, the origins of that...
And Cornwall's the other way around.
Cornwall's the other way around. So jam on top in Devon, cream on top in Cornwall.
Right.
Christ, is that right? It's so complicated.
No, it is.
It's a terrible episode.
It is. So Devon goes...
Dollop of jam. So jam on top. So the jam headlines in Devon. Now, apparently, according to something written in the 11th century, the history of serving jam, cream and jam on top on bread was started by monks in Devonshire. Right. Something like Devon Abbey or something. Right. I read that.
I was wondering, what were they doing with these things beforehand? Just so eating them all separately, and then someone went and put them all together. Look at that absolute maverick, you know.
Oh, this is great too. So, which way of those does one of those ways appeal to you inherently, and not the other?
Instinctively, I think I would put jam on first and then cream on top of that.
Right.
Because
it's clotted cream, remember? So clotted cream's like the thick, almost butter.
Yeah. So it seems well, I guess it's more interchangeable then. But I don't know. Spreading jam on seems more natural, and then just going like
dollop
cream. Yeah. Rather than
if it was more whipped cream, but clotted cream's the spreadable one.
So
that's like butter.
Right. Okay.
So that's why I would do it.
Around,
yeah, I would go jam on top. I think I would be more Devon than Cornwall.
Maybe right there. But I'm going to say Team Cornwall because that's what it seems.
Good, that feels level.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Cornish have got the pasty.
They have.
So we'll definitely do the pasty at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
So that is a brief history of the scone.
So I've got jam on mine.
Yeah, I wouldn't have jam on a sultana one. It's already got the fruit in.
Well, it's just extra. More, you can't have too much fruit. Well, I suppose you could, but you know.
So. What do you reckon? Scones go in? They're not bad, are they?
They're nice.
They're from Morrison's again. Just across the road.
The thing with scones, Scone, whatever they're called, is that they're one of these things that I like more than I think I do. If you ask me, in a room separate from one, I'd be like, they're alright. But actually, when I have one, that's really nice. Yeah. But I never think about having one.
No.
So I could probably go the rest of my life without ever having one unless someone offers me.
Have you ever had like an afternoon tea somewhere
I don't know that I have. I think I might have done.
I've had one.
Whatever did, then it didn't stick in
Yeah,
my brain.
no.
You know, so.
I've had one because it's always really expensive and it never quite.
Yeah.
So it
I'd
feels like a
rather
massive
spend
compromise.
that 27 quid on beer and
Because it's ridiculously
Yeah,
expensive.
yeah.
So my wife loves them, and her and a friend go to like hotels in Manchester sometimes because they'll have. I mean, it sounds like wow, she's quite a demure person or something. Yeah, except it's not tea, is it? It's prosecco. So basically, they go and have like 2 mini sandwiches and unlimited prosecco
And
for
then
an hour and get absolutely K-led. So it's not quite how English, it's Scottish anyway.
I was going to say that's,
It's
the
not
Scottish
English.
version of it, isn't it?
So yeah, I've had one, and it was at the Emma Bridgewater. I think that's the factory in Stoke, because my son was a student in Stoke.
All right.
And they've got a really nice cafe attached, and I think for Mother's Day or for my wife's birthday, he went, "Oh, come down and then we'll go to this cafe." So we ended up having this cream tea, but they're veggie, so it was so the sandwiches were like rubbish, no cheaper. you know, a beef sandwich and a ham sandwich and a chicken sandwich cost more than a cheese sandwich and a hummus sandwich. So give us a couple of quid off, firstly. And then secondly, it was just like, the cafe had some amazing stuff in it. Do you know what I mean? Big pies and stews and soups and like paninis and toasties and all that. And it was supposed to be special because it was served on this thing, and it was very nice.
It gets served on like a tiered sort of.
And I think that's
whatever it's
probably
called.
that will be the Duchess
tea
of
service,
Bedford.
is it, or something?
I don't know.
But you have different
something.
levels, don't you? Yeah.
Like a cake stand style,
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah.
But all I could think of was everything else on this menu is better than what I'm currently eating. And even the sandwich is so small that I'm just whacking it in, and my wife's like, bite it. I'm like, well, I can't bite it. It's only like
Savour this bland sandwich.
Yeah. So it was very nice. And the cafe, I've since been back to that cafe and had like something amazing. I had pie and mash, and it was just fantastic.
Yeah.
But, so scones or scones, depending on how you say it.
Yeah.
Think they should just go in?
I think they should go in. Yeah.
Because
I've already written them in. But,
well, there we go.
Because you can what? I want you to finish that train of thought.
Well, because it's one of the very few things I've found that we put in a Brit of Alright for food that actually originates in Britain. Because it started in Scotland.
Everything else is ambiguous at best on that point, isn't it?
Yeah, somebody else could claim, pretty much like the contents of the British Museum, somebody from another country could come and say, "Hey, that's ours."
Yeah.
No, it used to be.
You know when you hear the term Elgin marbles? Is it Elgin or Elgin? I don't know.
Are they Greek or Cypriot or something? Or?
Yeah.
We're from ancient Greece, aren't
they? The chap Elgin, Kevin, took them back.
Yeah.
But in my head, what do you envisage? What's the first thing that pops into your head?
Okay, honestly, the game marbles that you would play.
Giant
Yeah.
spheres made of marble is what pops into my head, but they're not. They're
statues of stolen from a Greek.
I was disappointed when they're not just giant balls, you know.
Zeus like with Apollo.
Yeah, that's always pops into my head.
Yeah, they're always in the news. They've been in the news in the last 2 or 3 weeks because there's been calls again to give them back.
Right, okay.
I think the British Museum in the last month has given about 500 things back to various parts of Africa.
All right. Well, that'll be a thing for right-wing politicians to get all angry about, won't it? Like the Chagos Island, you know what I mean? It'll be the same sort of thing.
But the latest thing that like people like Farage and others were annoyed about was that Winston Churchill was not going to be on the back of a £5 note, is it?
Yeah. In replaced by a beaver. So they all went mad. Is that they sort of suggested they should leave Winston Churchill on there for educational purposes because people wouldn't know who he was otherwise.
Yeah, well, firstly,
because if you think about it, before 2016, when Churchill first appeared on a fiver, nobody knew who he was, did they?
No idea.
Everyone would be talking about Elizabeth Fry, who was on the fiver at that time.
So it's only been on for 9 years.
Yeah, so they change it every 10 years for stopping forgeries and stuff like that. And apparently beavers are harder to draw.
Yes, much more difficult to forge than
Winston
Churchill. Firstly. Secondly, I mean, who really has much cash anymore? Who really carries cash? I rarely have
Basically,
cash.
whenever you do tapping on, just think of Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
Problem solved, you know. Like,
And who's even got a fiver anymore?
Exactly.
It's like, it's that for a litre of fuel now, isn't it? A fiver.
I know, yeah. Well, and it's like Winston Churchill's not being replaced in his entirety by a beaver. You know what I mean? So it's like all the photo records of Winston Churchill, he's not going to be starving.
No, he's not been a ray. yeah.
FDR and a beaver. There is the, you know, at Yalta. You know, it's going to be, or a beaver saying we'll fight them on the beaches. And
I don't know what a beaver sounds like.
No.
But we're getting endangered territory now. But they've just released some beavers. I think they released a couple in the last 2-3 years in Scotland.
They're doing all right, aren't
But
they?
they're doing it. I think they've just done the first 2 in England in the last few months.
There's more than that, I think.
Oh, is it?
I think the army,
I saw
they're
2
in quite a
the
few
other day
places.
being released.
Yeah,
and I was
yeah.
like, oh.
Yeah, and I had that sense of like some sort of prisoner exchange as well.
Yeah.
I mean, like we've released the beavers back into the wild. But yeah.
But they're apparently well, of course they are, because they're part of the things that are naturally found within an ecosystem.
When they come back into
If you put them back into that ecosystem,
They
they
make
really
things
help
better.
the ecosystem that they are a big part of.
Yeah.
Apparently beavers are better at like funneling rivers and streams than humans,
All right.
who
Okay.
often do it for profit
Yeah, rather than because
because it'll just make just like the river stronger
Yeah.
and make more food for them.
Yeah. No, they're cool. I'd love to see a beaver in the wild. To be real.
Yeah.
There was talk about them going. There was talk about reintroducing beavers up into the woods, but they're not
Into
doing
the
it.
woods, imagine in the park.
Yeah.
Yes, so you're trying to get on the roundabout.
Up on the tops there.
Beavers,
Yeah,
alright.
in
That'd be good. That'd be
what
good.
was the
It'd be-
Smithles estate. Yeah.
I've seen an otter in the wild once.
Yeah.
Oh no, I wasn't in the wild. What am I talking about? It's an otter sanctuary. That's another thing. As the image popped in my head, I was like, yeah, there's about 3 of them, and they're up and I was looking at it through glass.
I saw them. I've seen them at Leighton Moss before. You know, like
Have you?
OSBB.
Oh, that's good.
A family that lived there. When it was frozen at the start of this year, and when it was really cold, you could see them because, like, normally they'd just be swimming under the water,
Yeah.
and occasionally they'll pop up. But they had to run across the top of the water, so there was like,
I bet it was quite
and they're
funny.
massive. Like,
How are they?
I always knew they were bigger than I thought they were, but even allowing for
Right.
that, they were still bigger than I thought.
Have
they
you
were.
ever seen a badger in the wild?
I've never seen a badger in the wild.
So, well, we saw a dead one,
I've seen a dead one.
right? And you see them at the side of roads often,
Yeah.
possibly killed by farmers and left there as if they'd been knocked over. That's the old urban myth.
Is it? Oh,
Yeah.
right, okay.
Because they're always at the side of the road and they always don't seem to be that squashed.
Right. Okay.
Possibly
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
But I was playing golf with Mike Keenan,
Oh yeah.
and by a pond, we saw this. It was like this huge thing, and initially I was like, from a distance, I thought someone had left a golf bag. 'Cause it was massive. It was massive.
Yeah.
Really, like, because they're like the apex
They're the
carnivore
biggest
in the UK,
carnivore
aren't
in
they?
the UK, yeah.
So you absolutely think, oh, that's
And
pathetic.
they maybe eat worms and stuff as well.
Yeah,
don't
they eat slugs, and worms, and like they'll eat anything around baby mice or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was ginormous.
Mm.
It was the size. It looks about as heavy as a big bulldog.
Right,
And it
okay.
looked like it would be a match for it.
Yeah.
And apparently got really tough eyes and really sharp teeth, and they also carry infection.
They'll give it TB.
Yeah, yeah.
And your bulldog will be like wheezing away and coughing.
I bet the badger's probably on the £10 note, maybe, is it? Maybe
Possibly.
on
I
the
don't
20.
know what animals are on them.
And
Beavers,
we never will.
badgers. Yeah, because they have animals on the money in Scotland, don't they?
I don't know, I know
They
on
have
the
otters,
passport
they have
there's
otters on
animals
there.
and flowers.
Yeah, exactly. It's fine. Anyway, this is nothing to do with. I can happily talk about British flora and fauna and put them in whatever the British Book of All Right, which maybe I'll do another time. But I want to put in, because we've been talking about sort of Scone, Scone, skin, and put in the variety of accents that we have in this country.
Right.
So I was going to say,
As a good
I was
thing.
going to say the British accent, but it's not. There is no
There
such
is
thing,
none, no.
because we have so many. As a good thing, yeah. This
Yeah,
is
it's
like
a
the
wonderful
opposite of
thing.
Room 101, isn't it? Basically.
Yeah,
So
it's...
I think it's brilliant. I love the fact you can go. We mentioned it before. 15 miles down the road,
Yeah.
and the accent's different.
Yeah, totally. So, like, yeah, Bolton and Bury's slightly different, but Bolton and Salford, which neighbour each other, is the most different.
Very
accents.
different, yeah. And then you've got like Bolton and Blackburn and Burnley.
Yeah,
You know,
all
they're
a bit
all
different.
different. Maybe outsiders. I wonder whether people from down south, for example, can tell the difference between a
No
Bolton and
idea,
Blackburn.
absolutely no
Because
idea.
it's like the difference is generally just how you pronounce your R's. Like in
Yeah,
Blackburn, they probably like car park, isn't it?
Yeah,
You know
car park. Well,
Yeah,
car.
yeah.
If
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
from Blackburn.
Yeah, yeah.
Blackburn.
Whereas in like in Bolton, in like car park,
Car
where
park.
you just draw
And then
the
in
A
Wigan,
out
they'd
for
just
them.
be like, oh, put your horse over there. In fact, don't put it over there. Somebody will like leave it on bricks. Just come back and your horse has got no legs. But yeah, I know for a fact that in down south, because I've been heckled in London and like on the south coast with things like go back to Liverpool, go back to Leeds.
Right. Okay.
Someone shouted, "Oh, I saw you last time. Go back to Leeds." And I was
Right,
like,
okay.
"Well, I
Well,
know
it
for a
wasn't
fact
me."
you're not thinking of me." And they were thinking of Danny Brown, I guess. He
Right,
was a
okay.
Leeds-based
Yeah,
act who had dark hair and was about my age at the time. But I think it's a really good thing because they don't have this. So there's a New York accent and there's a Boston accent, and then there's just like in America, there's like thousands of miles, and everyone seems to. And down south they talk a bit differently.
Yeah.
That's a nice accent, but you.
Well, that y'all come back now.
Yeah, I'll come back now.
That sort of thing.
Yeah, but no Pitstop's accent.
Yeah.
That kind of. She never said that. I don't know what accent that was.
Yeah.
And then there's that Californian.
It's either that accent is either sexy
Yeah.
or sort of really threatening.
Yes.
In a sort of Ku Klux Klan kind of way.
Yeah. Or, depending on your perversion, they're also sexy.
Yeah.
But I think it's great how we've got. I don't think there's a bad accent either. So Brummie is actually a really lovely accent. I think.
Yeah.
When people and because my son lived in Stoke, so that's one that you kind of at first you think, oh, there's no real accent in Stoke.
There's a definite,
but there really is.
Sort of like East Midlands accent.
Yeah, and it's nice. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it all, and I really like Brummie when it's a gentle, like it's quite soft and nice.
Yeah,
I love like Southwest accents, and even like real Cockneys the accents I don't like are the fake ones.
Right. Okay.
So
like
Blur.
Right.
So when Damon Albarn was sort of talking like that. And it's like me talking like it's ridiculous. You don't naturally talk like that, but you're doing it to like put it on because it's trendy because you want to be associated with London. I think it's called Mockney.
Mockney, yeah.
And there's also a new one. There's a new accent where white people
sound like they're doing like Jamaican.
They sort of talk like this. What are you talking about, man?
Yeah, but people around here, some kids around here do that.
Loads of kids do that.
Say 15 years ago, they'd be putting on a Salford accent, thinking they were doing an Oasis accent.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Which are two different accents again. I'm from Manchester. No, you're not. That's a Salford accent, mate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. Well, Sean Ryder and Bez have got a Salford accent.
Because they're from Little Alton.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, which was a Salford spill.
So like a ghetto.
They moved.
It was basically like Palestine.
Next to farmland.
It was created for.
It's separated by a bridge as well from the mainland. You know.
But so white people I don't know this because I've not done the basic research because I did the research about Scones. But when white people start talking like this, what are you talking about, man? To me, that sounds like black people who had possibly Afro-Caribbean parents, or maybe even Asian people who had parents whose English was not their first language. Learned to speak from them, and it was a mixture of everything. So if a white person does that,
a patois.
Like a patois.
So
is that not is it not a bit racist?
It's a little bit, maybe. But
it's trendy now.
I don't think they're doing it deliberately to be like. They're doing it because they think it's cool.
Because it's cool.
It's like London street culture sort of influencing, and I get all that happens. You know what I mean? But you do. I remember I lived in London about 20 years ago. I remember my mate who was also from around here, but we both lived down there at the same time. I remember him pointing out that like none of the kids have actual Cockney accents now. They've all got that sort of West Indian sort of style, you know, like the accent you've just been doing. Yeah. And it's like
perhaps racist to it. We'll find out.
But like that was in London, and that sort of spread out a little bit. Yeah.
Do you know what other accent you don't hear? And it must be. So I go to Liverpool all the time. I was there this weekend. I've gig in Liverpool probably more than a gig in Manchester. So do you remember? So if you hear Ringo Starr talking,
That's sort of
he
like
used to
that.
talk like this.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is how people from Liverpool used to speak when it was like Lancashire still.
Yeah.
When it used to be in Lancashire. But you don't hear any young people talk with that Scouse accent anymore.
They'd sound like they were 50-year-old men, wouldn't they? It'd be weird.
Yeah, but they all talk like that. You what, lad?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I know that accent existed as well.
Yeah, but it's like being like a grey squirrel.
Everybody, it just spreads.
The other one.
It really spreads. My accent's bad because when I'm in Oldham, I don't sound like I'm from Oldham, but when I'm in Manchester, I do sound like I'm from Oldham.
Right, okay.
So
you can't fit in anywhere.
No, so everybody talks like that in Oldham, a bit more like,
yeah,
you're alright, do you want to come here off?
It's not too different from around here, the accent.
No, it's pretty similar. It's like an old mill, Lancashire mill accent.
Yeah.
But I've lived in Stockport for 30 years, and that's a bit more Manchestery sounding. So I often will, when you couldn't say scone, you didn't know what to say. I'll sometimes say the word a bit wrong, and sometimes it comes out Stockport, sometimes it just happened. It's just burrowed in.
Yeah, because you've been exposed to all sorts of
the cultures of different, vibrant.
How are they going to keep you in Oldham once you've seen old Stockport? Exactly.
Exactly. It's not like a James Bond plot, is it?
No.
Grows up in Oldham, then he moves to Stockport. The opening sequence of like on the viaduct.
Yeah. You trying hats on in the Hat Museum or something. But Stockport syndrome, you'd call it, or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Odd job.
Yeah.
It would work.
But like, in terms of like the variety of different accents, though, is that like when you talked about Liverpool, then is like Lancashire used to be, like it ran from Manchester all the way to what is now Merseyside.
Yeah.
And Liverpool, apparently the accent in Liverpool used to be much more similar to like Lancashire accents.
Yeah.
Because like you hear people with accents, people from like St Helens and all that.
Yeah.
That's like that sort of, it's got a slight sort of Merseyside twang to it, but it's very Lancastrian as well. And apparently that's roughly what it used to be like, which is effectively a Lancashire accent that's got a little bit of Welsh thrown in there because of its proximity to Wales.
Yeah, because they'll say...
That's from Welsh. That's the double L sound in Welsh, like Llandudno. You know what I mean? Is from that, yeah. But is that apparently in the 1840s there was a big influx of Irish people fleeing the famine.
Yes, to what? To Liverpool.
To Liverpool, because Liverpool was the biggest port. Certainly, apart from London, is the biggest port in the in the country, and certainly the nearest one to Ireland. And they would often come to Liverpool with a plan to then move on to America.
Yeah,
which is the way out. And then lots ended up staying there, and that changed the accent massively. So that's why Liverpool's got a hugely different accent from just towns that are 15 miles down the road. You know what I mean?
So I know this fact. In the year 1900, because of the back end of the Industrial Revolution and things like railway tracks were being built and more houses were being built and Manchester's population was booming, 50% of the inner city population of Manchester was Irish. Really? Because they came over to build things like roads and railways and stuff. And that was all like in the inner city.
Yeah, so like a Manc accent is closer to a Liverpool one than some of the Lancashire ones in between. For certain sounds.
And it's also interesting how if you were to get to Geordie and do a straight line up from Leeds, the accent from Leeds is not dissimilar to this. And then as you get further north Yorkshire into places like Darlington, it goes a little bit more Geordie sounding. And then by the time you're, I don't know, Middlesbrough, Sunderland, it's more like...
Is Middlesbrough and like Hull a similar accents,
it is interesting, but soon, like in another 50 years, this podcast will be presented by two boring old guys going like, "No, you bumper clap, what is this scone you are talking? Sick, this is sick." It's just going to be like... I'm amazed. I watch a lot of YouTube now. We're on it. My son used to watch it all the time, and I'd be like, "Why are you doing that? It's boring." But I really love it now.
Yeah.
But I'm amazed at like people just pretend they've never. So if this was a popular video, not like the ones we do, somebody would go like, "Hey, what is this? Whoa, I've never seen this," and then they eat it, and the title would be like, whatever the fella's called, rabbit. Rabbit is amazed at a new thing, and then he eats a bit of KFC or something. Like, dude, you've never had a KFC.
No.
Hey, what are you doing? I mean, somebody like some American will like go, "Hey, I've not heard this song, Whole Lotta Love by Led Zeppelin." Listen, go, "Oh, this is amazing." It's like you've never heard that. I do not believe it.
So is that what they do?
That's what they do.
So they can have a reaction video.
It's called a reaction video.
To something that they clearly
have heard 1,000 times. It's on every TV, every sports game you go to, every bar you've ever been. You've never heard that.
Does no one are all the comments not just people calling them out? On
no, everyone goes, "Oh, Rabbit, you're such a legend." And then it's a short hop for Rabbit from that to the Manosphere.
And nice to use the word hop.
Hop, yeah, because the Manosphere is also that huge level of like bafflement about women things. Usually.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Why don't women want to have sex with me? Well, I
think maybe it's all the things that you say and do.
Is it res ipsa, where it's that legal concept where it just explains itself? It's there to be seen for everyone.
Yeah. I
don't know why women don't find you attractive.
If only there was a way we could find out.
So, accents. Do you know anything else about accents?
Do I know anything else about them? No, I think that there are 56 different accents in the UK.
Really? Is that all? I'd have thought.
But I suspect there's more than that, because I think that seems to be in sort of broad geographic areas. I think there's more like sub-accents within each one.
Well,
obviously accents are different from dialects as well, aren't they? So accents are about how you pronounce vowel sounds generally, sometimes consonants, but mainly vowel sounds.
Yeah.
Whereas dialects is the actual words that you use.
Yeah.
If you get a combination of a strong regional accent with a dialect, you're talking about basically a different language.
Yes, you can be.
I went to University in Newcastle, and my mate Bawley came up to stay with me one weekend, and we were in Wetherspoons across the road from Central Station, and he was stood at the bar, and there was an old bloke talking to him, and I could tell that he had no idea what he was saying at all. Because he would like. I suspect that that generation have died off now, and the dialect has died off with them a little bit. You used to get it around here as well, like blokes talking in sort of like Lancastrian sort of dialects, and you don't hear that.
No.
So it does change, and it does, homogenise, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, once the and I think that maybe because of things like this, and the interconnectivity of the sort of online world means that we will have fewer accents in the future.
I think so.
Because they're brought about as a result of, bizarrely, diversity, as in people from different areas coming together and their sort of sounds melding, and then cultural and geographical isolation, which means that it develops its own sort of sound, which is why a few miles away it can be different, because you've not had much chance to sort of talk to it.
I really like that. That is diversity, but interestingly, it's not because of diversity.
It's the exact opposite. It's a combination of diversity and isolation.
My grandma used to say, and I think this is a Lancashire phrase, and I've not heard anybody say this phrase, when you said that about the dialect, so she'd say sken, as in look.
I mean, look around, sken.
Let's have a sken, give us a sken of that. Or like, if she saw somebody, this is so funny, if she saw someone with cross eyes, she'd say, "Look at him, he skens like a crab." If the eyes were going. I used to love that, like the eyes are going. Skens like a crab. It's a real. But then, I've tried to steal that and say it, and everyone goes, "Oh, I don't know what you mean."
Yeah. It doesn't work. It's things like like memoing. I talk about people memoing.
Yeah.
And young people don't know what that means, because it's from mill talk, isn't it? It's their ability to sort of like effectively overly elaborate sort of like the shape of words so that they can be
so they could half lip read and half hear, because it's so noisy. Because famously, like, I always remember Frank Side, but I'm saying it, but everybody said it when I was at school. "I cloth ears."
Yeah.
If you didn't, and that was the 80s. You'd got no idea what life was like in the mill.
So that comes from the mill, from having worked in the cloth industry.
And you go deaf because
what? I didn't know that's where cloth ears
comes from the mill because of that.
I used to think it was because your ears were made out of cloth, and therefore they didn't work.
That's what I used to think, but it was like a, you know, like how you'd have tennis elbow?
Cloth ears would be like you're deaf from being from...
Totally.
Right.
And then a Manchester or Lancashire thing about saying something's bobbins.
Bobbins, yeah.
Bobbins,
Or
which
in
is...
Rochdale, just they've shortened that to Bob.
Bob.
That's just Bob.
Yeah, and Bob can also be used as bob on, meaning good. Like when you'd put the new bobbin on.
Right,
Put the bob on. So it's like, oh, that's bob on.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Which is, you know, if you're rabbit, you will probably say banging or sick or whatever they say. Wicked. But it's always interesting. It
just changes, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. So do accents go in then?
I think it's... Yeah, and I don't think there's a bad accent either. I think there's snobbery around accents. I
Absolutely.
like all of them.
There's no such thing as a good or a bad accent. They are just their own thing. And it's like...
And some are sexier than others, let's be honest. Like a Welsh, a southern Welsh accent. Yeah. Oh my God, is like...
Yeah.
And an Irish accent. Well, say that. No, maybe not like a...
Not like,
Belfast.
One that sounds like a warning. Yeah.
You've got 10 minutes to get out. That's...
Yeah. Your mum said that to you in the morning, like, I'm going to school, don't worry.
But yeah, that lovely sort of southern one. But Geordie accent's nice. Scouse accents can be really nice.
I mean, I talked about this before, but like Geordie accents are seen to be the more trustworthy ones, aren't they? People like regional accents.
Yes.
So that's why if you phone a call centre, it's someone with a regional accent. If you ask to speak to the manager, eventually you'll get someone with a more plummy BBC accent because you trust what they... You think that they know what they're talking about. They're in a position of authority.
That's probably...
Whereas you think that sort of like the blokes on the trenches on the phones,
it's just...
they're not lying to you.
No, it's us. You're speaking to us.
They're
too friendly, too nice.
Yeah.
I do like Geordies. I think they're normally pretty good. I've not really met many bad Geordies. They're all
they're all sang gigs there.
I wonder if the first made-up accent is that received pronunciation that Harry Enfield, when he does Mr. Chumley Waller, and everyone's
that
talking
BBC
like
accent,
and it probably is just to try and standardise the way of speaking, because if in those days you had a Geordie on with one dialect, somebody from Lancashire,
I think it was
somebody from Wales, so it's like
that's why it's called received pronunciation. You've received how to pronounce it.
Yes,
it's not developed naturally.
And also the tellies that they had, firstly were tiny, and the speakers would have been awful, and the radios, the wirelesses were awful. So it's probably for clarification, really.
Yeah. If you're announcing that you're at war with Germany, you need everyone to actually understand what you've just said, don't you? You know, like...
if only I was better at accents, I could have done in Geordie. Right? Yeah. Go on.
Well, war means hour in Germany. Wartime? What's this? We're on a war footing. He's talking about my shoes.
It's wartime, we're wasting. Right, let's not going anywhere this time, is it? Have you put it in, accents?
I've put it in already, yeah.
I think it's great. Please subscribe. If you've got this far, we could do with help.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but should we go?
Yep, let's go. Bye, everybody. Oh.